Hey, welcome to the Substream's annual year-end worst of the goddamn year Watch This Instead episode. What we do every year and what we're gonna do right now is get all of our bestest friends and buddies to tell us what they thought the crappiest movie of the year was and what to watch instead. Here we go.
So, the worst movie that I saw this year, everyone who attended it, we looked at each other and said, oh, it's not even worth talking about how bad this movie was. The movie was called At Any Price. It's this unbelievably inept story of farmers selling seed. It's not possible to make a movie more broadly inept and horrendously misguided, and oh, Dennis Quaid is awful in this thing. If you want to watch something great that's also kind of rural and yet interesting and futuristic in a way too, watch Robot and Frank. Almost nobody saw Robot and Frank when it came out, and that film is so endlessly charming. It has such interesting things to say about where we are going in a real way, and also about what it's like to lose your memory beside someone that can't. It's actually profound, as opposed to profoundly awful.
So, the worst film that I saw in 2012 was based on a Japanese video game, and it was actually a sequel, and that is Silent Hill Revelation. The imagery of the movie was actually really cool, but for some reason the storyline lacked big time. Even the actors were pretty good, like Sean Bean, Kit Harington, Adeline Clemens were all in it, but for some reason they looked so stupid. So, what to watch instead? Watch Game of Thrones. It's a television series based on the novels by George R.R. Martin, and it's on HBO. Both first season and second season are out right now, and the third season is coming out in March. Both Sean Bean and Kit Harington are in it, and it was probably my favorite thing that I discovered this year. So watch that over the holidays.
I'm gonna blow some minds right now. I'm gonna name a film that's on the top of everyone's top 10 list for the year. The worst film of 2012 is Holy Motors. It is an exercise in audience alienation unseen since Jean-Luc Godard's equally horrible film Socialism 2 years ago, the one he sent to the Toronto Film Festival with no subtitles just to see what would happen. Holy Motors does nothing to try to let its audience in, and as a result, I was not in, except for the rather incredible intermission, which even me, who hates it, will admit is amazing. If you want to watch whack shit stuff from 2012 that might blow your mind, watch Cloud Atlas instead. Forget Holy Motors. Holy Motors sucks.
For me though, the worst film of 2012 wasn't even that bad. It all comes down to the awful, awful acting, or maybe it was the casting that was the problem. I'm talking about Jeff Who Lives at Home, the mainstreamish mumblecore comedy starring Ed Helms and Jason Segel. This film ruined those two guys for me, completely. Both these guys delivered the most grating performances I've seen in years. I couldn't stand either of them. Were they miscast? Was it a bad script? It's really hard to say. All I know is that I'm not looking forward to either of their future projects. They're dead to me. Instead, why not watch a movie that actually might not be very good if it wasn't for the stellar performances? I'm talking about The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson. Joaquin Phoenix in this film, not only does he give the best performance of 2012, but he gives the best performance, I think, of the past 5-10 years. He really is that good, and he makes the movie. So watch that instead of crappy Ed Helms and Jason Segel.
For my money, this is even close. Even though there were a lot of horrible movies in 2012, not as many as there have been in past years, there's one that's like head and shoulders worse than them all. It's not only an example of bad filmmaking craft, but it's the perfect example of what's just morally gross. What's the white worm that's eating the heart out of the American studio filmmaking system currently, and that's Red Dawn, which is a remake of the already terrible 80s action film of the same name. It's a badly made film, and it's just politically and morally repugnant and racist and should be avoided, consigned to the pits of hell. It's so far the worst movie that I've ever seen that I had to think about this for like less than 4 seconds. So what should you watch instead? watch Killing Them Softly, which was directed by Andrew Dominik, who also directed the assassination of the Jesse James movie, which had a similar reaction in that it really pleased critics, myself included, and then completely alienated almost every person that went to see it in the theater, because every person that went to see it in the theater was being told by the trailer that they were going to watch a funny, kind of serious, charming gangster movie with some action elements. It's not that. What it is instead is a relatively simple, kind of experimental, very, very well made new entry into the canon of American gangster cinema. It's kind of obvious. It hits the nail, it hits on the head really hard and really often, but that doesn't mean that it should be ignored. Watch that instead. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with us through 2012. Watch next week when we'll have all of our assorted top 10 lists. We can talk about movies that we actually liked instead of movies that we hated. And with love from the Substream, Happy New Year and Happy Holidays and Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and Happy Kwanzaa and Happy Festival of Lights.